Ladies and gentlemen, hello again and welcome back to Don't Worry About the Government. My name is Chris Novembrino. Joining me on the show today is Brian Halverson. Welcome back, Brian. What have you been doing?
Man, I for the most part, my extra time has been out in the yard cleaning up from the
The
storm
blizzard.
because I refuse to pay people to do that sort of work because I really do enjoy doing it. But also I've heard of, several neighbors paying several $1,000s to have just stuff taken away. Um, I just can't do that.
I
So,
know I can't
and
possibly rationalize that. Like I'm just too stingy.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been nice weather, so as long as everyone is patient for me to collect everything and cut everything down, and eventually we probably just gonna burn a lot of it. Had to get small enough to get into a fire. My
Do you have like a
goodness.
wood chipper or something like that, or like
We
a?
could have used a wood chipper. I I just decided against it at this point, but we are going to repurpose some of the bigger like cedar branches to hopefully make like some raised bed gardens and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, but for the most part, a lot of the small stuff, it can break down over time, or you can just crush it and uh, just
I mean, if you
spread
give it a month
spread
or
it
two,
out.
yeah, if you give it a month
Yeah,
or two, it'll get weaker, and you'll just be able to go in there and hack it real easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's been my goodness. But also uh, just working a lot more now. It's been picking up. So, uh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Ditto. On the lessons front here, I was tallying it up. I have 7 lessons this week, which is yeah, a good amount for me. And that's cool. And I'm half vaccinated now. I got my first
Oh,
shot of Moderna, so that's cool. Looking forward to in a couple of weeks here getting called and getting told to come back in there, and hopefully by like May-ish, I will be able to be feeling safer. Although I will definitely say safer as we're going to get into the slate here. Certainly makes me feel a little bit easier about things. Things have been kind of chill since the fire here. Things have not been like utterly out of control. So that's been cool too. And yeah, like it's just been it's been a little bit more low key. I've been working a ton though. Between this, the band, which is picking up and we're making headway. Do you want to hear a band story? Do we? Do we?
sure.
All right, all right. So, have you ever met someone who won't tell you their name?
Uh,
Like their first, like have you ever had someone like you regular? I guess we had Joey Insider who is doing that here on the show. So you do have Joey.
oh no, well that's because of social media anonymity. I don't really count that. But you mean face to face?
Yeah, yeah, face. Yeah, that's true too. Yeah,
That's
Joey.
that's different.
Yeah.
Because I bet whoever, you know, Joey Insider, if we were face to face with him, it was not like he wouldn't
At some
reveal
point,
his.
Joey would have had to give us his name. Sure.
Yeah,
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 that's a good
yeah,
point.
yeah. But no, I, mm,
So, like, in the world of music, lots of people have handles and stuff. I played with the dude who went by Shadow. Um, I've played with a number of people who've gone by like one name, and I have the nickname of Nove, but like, I don't try to kayfabe it up and be like, they only call me Nove. Like, I'm Chris Novembrino. People call me Nove. Um, that doesn't mean that like that's what my one name origin from outer space story is. But so we meet I'm hiring drummers. We had a bunch of different drummers come through. The guy we ended up settling in on was this dude who's about 40 who went by the name of B Amos. Like he was B. And I was like, okay, cool. He seems like a nice enough guy. And I'm outing his name, but it's just his stage name, and he wanted to keep the whole thing private. But we're in band practice yesterday, and I just conjecturally go, as I want to do in a situation with like I work with all these people professionally. I've never worked with any of these people before in my life. I've known them all since November. I see them maybe once or twice a month. The
Hmm.
rest of the time, I practice our set list. I get it down. I text with Robert, the other person who I'm band leaders with, and we kind of confer about stuff, but in like a very professional sort of way. Like, I maybe say what's up or Merry Christmas. Like I've said that, but like, I mean,
Yeah, I
we
got you.
work together. We're
Yeah.
we're making a working band.
Hmm.
I do the hirings and firings too. So like we did this big round of auditions to get in a drummer because we didn't like the drummer we had. The original drummer was not working out. And we get in a bunch of different drummers. We end up hiring this guy B, who was almost bad when we didn't give him the job. I'm making small talk with all of these guys here at the last rehearsal, and in an effort to get everyone talking, I go, I try to ask a question that is quick and fun. Sometimes like, what's a new thing you learned this week? With B, I was like, so B, how did you get your nickname of B? Which is like
Yeah.
standard banter sort of thing. Dude, I like set off things. He was like, it's just a nickname. I was like, oh, cool. Well, how'd you get it? Well, my mom would call me V sometimes. So, that's just a nickname. I was like, okay. And I knew to let the subject drop. I was like, nope, this is getting weird. No, 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 no. I have done something here. Things are strange now. Another member of the band who I like, but a bit of a steamroller, goes, so like, what's your name then? Is it like Bob?
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
no, he keeps asking. I'm sitting here going like, dude, his name's like Bumple Stiltskin or something, but we need to stop asking. Like, we need to stop asking. So it's like, hey man, why don't you go check outside and see if Robert, our co-leader, is outside and he's here. Yeah. It's like, all right, cool. We end up having this audition. We were auditioning singers on this day, and we went through rehearsal, and rehearsal was generally fine. We were making comments here or there about, well, we want to do this with this arrangement, that with that arrangement. Here's what the fill is, but normal working stuff. Our singer comes into audition. Long story short, she's great. Stoked to be working with her. Met her and her husband. Seemed like really nice jam up people. And they said they could stay all the way till 5. They stay for a while, like, and they run through way more than the sets. And she clearly wants the job and wants to play with us, and she's great. I'm like really stoked to be showing y'all later this year what we come up with, because we got some good stuff in the tank here. And we get done auditioning her. She and her husband leave. I got my hands up. I'm like, rock and roll. I found a new singer. It's going to be really cool. Yeah. Robert, the keyboard player, looks over at me. He's like, nice job, Chris. Like our bass player, Pat, he's like, yeah, nice job, man. And then I look over our drummer and I was like, all right, man, let's take 5. Where's the soda machine? Let's go out and get ourselves a cola to drink here. He starts packing up his cymbals. It's like 4:00. We still rented this room out for another hour, and I'm like, "Hey, man, we still got another hour, dude. We're just taking 5. We're not breaking down here." He's like, "Yeah. Well, I think I'm done with the band." Like, dude, up and quits. Like, and everyone else in the room is like staring at you, like, what? And I'm like, so what's going on? He's like, well, this is not my flavor of ice cream. And wouldn't give us a more straight answer than that. Yeah, it was very strange. I've never been like, I might have still had my hands up. Like, yeah, when I realized, wait, something weird's happening. So yeah, no, this guy like up and quits. I ended up talking to our singer. Apparently, the entire audition, I didn't even notice this. He was just like glaring at her. With her husband in the room. Bizarre. Yeah, I know. Bizarre. But one door closes, another door opens. And with that, we move onward and upward. So half vaccinated. New singer in tow, down a drummer. Let's get into the show. That's like a rhyming couplet. Where else do you get music, poetry, politics? The answer, Hannity's program. But a close second is don't worry about the government. So let's get
Yeah.
into this. Yeah. Arts and literature. That's what I think of when I think of Sean Hannity. Um, Real quickly, I want to recommend before we get into the show. I've been perusing through different documentaries. We may do a little bit of Don't Worry About the Government AV Club here in the not so distant future because I found a nice little trove of documentaries. Gotta recommend You've Been Trumped. I know. You're like, not a Trump documentary. Not a Trump documentary. I get it. I know that most audience members have Trump fatigue and would love to never hear from him again. I recommend this one because it was made in 2011. So long before he was ever going to run for president and before he even really became the birther in chief. Donald Trump was just this dickhead real estate developer and a horrible guy. And I think that this documentary, because it was made in 2011, and it focuses on his business development, specifically the golf course in Scotland, which you might sort of know about. But this will give you a nice, really in-depth look at like a ground level. This really gives a great insight to exactly the type of guy Donald Trump was. It's a very poignant moment at the end where one of the guys was like, "Oh, I voted for SMP my whole life, and they screwed me over." And SMP is a kind of a conservative party over there in the UK. And so, it's a story about a poor conservative dude getting trampled by the conservative politicians who all too happily give away the reins of the state to business. And in particular, too, how easy it is to buy small economies up and basically wrestle control away with the almighty dollar in small economies. And that's essentially what Trump did. It's a hell of a story. It's super. I mean, it's a poignant story. And it's a really good look, a different look at Donald Trump, and one that I think, like, look, we were bombarded with this guy for 4 years, and like at the end of the day, like, I mean, he started kind of an unprecedented riot in the Capitol that was like aimed at, like, I mean, it's still kind of crazy to think about what happened at 1/6. And the premise and what precipitated it. A lot of us have been watching the QAnon documentary, which does a nice job connecting QAnon to the 1/6 riots, the insurrection in the Capitol, the domestic terror attack, what have you. But I think it's important to wind the clock back and just realize that, like, Trump was always a bad guy. And well divorced from the politics, when you start with a bad character is going to be attracted to toxic politics. And that's what I think you might get out of You've Been Trump. So I recommend checking that one out. So with that said, let's talk about those Capitol riots for a moment here. 55% of Republicans believe that the January 6th insurrection, domestic terror attack, riot in the Capitol was led by left-wing activists, quote, trying to make Trump look bad. 51% of Republicans also believe that the riot was, quote, mostly peaceful, law-abiding Americans.
Okay. Okay, go. I know you're not done, but I'm already confused. But go on.
I know. My wires are starting to cross here. And 55% of Republicans believe that the 2020 election loss was the result of illegal voting or election rigging, despite the fact that, like, the Dominion lawsuits are not just kind of falling apart. They're like falling apart at light speed. Go ahead, Brian. Yeah.
I'm gonna try to unpack what seems like the easiest bit here. Okay, first of all, do you break into the Capitol and try to disturb the process whenever you have a valid claim of illegal voting and election rigging? Or would you say that instantly muddies the water? And so I'm a little confused as far as the game plan adding up here, if that was to be an actual good faith, honest take here on how people actually feel about this, other as opposed to what they say whenever they're asked.
I mean, no, this really does reek of just naked rationalization, right?
Right.
I mean, in the end, it's, well, this is all. These weren't even our people. These are not people who would vote for Trump.
Right.
These are not people like me. They're all left wingers. And if they are our people, they're misunderstood because you in the media, you guys are always misrepresenting us. You guys are always trying to make us look bad.
So here's also what is very convenient is that every single person that they say, or the way that they characterize the right side or the alt-right side of the group, is to say that those people were mostly peaceful, law-abiding Americans. However, that fraction of the people who did things that we don't really approve of, those were the left-wing activists. And it really chalks up quite nicely how there is a group of left-wing activists in here, and there's also a group of alt-right. And even
And
though,
apparently the right wingers are, and the mostly people, good law abiding Americans, are not smart enough to sniff out the left wing terrorists in their midst, even though it's a 1-to-1 ratio, apparently.
right, and also all of the things that have come out as far as the planning and premeditating and the everything leads up to them acknowledging and approving of all of the things that have happened. However, they're mostly
They need a way to disavow the bad stuff while
okay.
rationalizing and approving of the good stuff.
So also, I mostly is doing a lot of work here. First of all, um, the word
Yeah, yeah,
mostly. Hold
yeah,
on.
mostly, yeah, no,
Let's
I'm with you.
let's connect mostly to the way Donald Trump used mostly when referring to the what wasn't this a reference to the people crossing at the border, how they're not bringing us our best.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
so he was saying mostly, but there are a few good people.
I guess,
Yeah, I guess
I
that
guess.
was, yeah. So that was his framing there, and that was the framing, I think that was accepted. And then you look at this, mostly, what is that? Let's just say that if if by mostly they mean 90% of the people who attended did not storm the Capitol and 10% did, is that what they're trying?
That's still probably wrong because, like,
Yeah,
I think, I mean, most of the people who were at the Capitol were probably committing criminal trespassing at some
right,
point
right.
and like not assembling peacefully. So, like, disturbing the peace would also be a thing that they were not lawfully doing. So I mean, if you're really gonna get down to like what the book is on this, they aren't lawfully assembling. The second that you have the destruction of property and the forced entry into the Capitol building, the entire assembly is no longer peaceful. The entire continuous assembly, essentially, like everything that's on the Capitol property,
Yeah,
even
like
stuff that you're
like
theoretically allowed to be on outside.
like for instance, talking about you were talking about a band party not too long ago. I remember being at a party uh, uh, where I came with a friend, and at that party, other people that I didn't know started like trashing this house, and I don't think those people were living there. I think they were just messed up, and this party had turned to a point where like people were trashing the house, and then someone who lived here who was drunk was going to come in and accuse someone of trashing the house, possibly me. I didn't want to get it, the party had turned to a degree where if I was there, I would have been honestly seen as being culpable. Like if
There was no. You're not,
Like,
especially in the justice court of drunk judge.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is there's a point when you're at a peaceful gathering, when if you notice the peaceful gathering is no longer a peaceful gathering, you make a decision whether you like it or not. And the decision is, am I leaving what used to be a peaceful gathering? Or am I staying at what is now not a peaceful gathering and is something
Yes.
else? And from that moment on, whether or not you took ownership of that commitment, the it took ownership of you if you don't leave, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah. No. There are. We've had a number of these cases, like these like legal cases recently. Like going back to like Rittenhouse, there's one I was talking with someone else about recently, same sort of thing, where there's like a series of decisions where it's not like the defense that gets put up is, oh, well, what was I to do? It was all such a rush and it was all just this moment. But it actually isn't a moment when you unpack it. It's a series of discrete decisions over a series of moments. And moment by moment, you're making the wrong choice. Yeah, and no, the thing that I think is very scary about these numbers is they are creeping upwards. Like if anything, they're not tapering downwards because there's no meaningful challenge to them. There's no meaningful challenge to this narrative. The Democratic Party has largely decided to stop talking about the Capitol riots. Like they don't want to, and insofar as I guess part of the reason you and I are so mad at Joe Manchin, like there's like the long time stuff we don't like about him. But the other issue is that insofar as people like Joe Manchin are able to, with approbation, advance the let's work together with the other side thing, it fundamentally ignores the fact that the other side was very responsible for creating the environment that resulted in a riot in the Capitol, or like in an insurrection that threatened the lives of all of the members of Congress in the Capitol 2 months ago. And that's a collective failure of that side. Chris, are you saying they should all be punished? Yes. Yes. They didn't vote to impeach him. So like
Yeah.
that, yeah, yes. So yes, they
To,
should be punished for that. Yes.
I can't remember who made this point. This was, of course, in the House whenever the impeachment hearings were happening. But someone made the point with Justin Amash's vote that look at his vote as a measure of how someone not attached to anywhere can is considering impeachment. No one ever looked at Joe Manchin's considerations that way, because, and shouldn't they? Because he's in the center, right? Like,
And that's sort of the conceit that even the mainstream media, I don't even know the media realizes they're not quite nailing that with the framing here, but like there's a very big difference between Amash's centrism and Joe Manchin's centrism, right?
well, Amash is like, he was a libertarian at that point. He wasn't even
yeah, and it's not even the
yeah.
libertarianism in this case, right? Like it's like something much more. Amash seems much closer to actually caring about what the people care about versus Manchin, who's like talking about the most beltway, highfalutin-y sort of things of like, well, what about civility? What about the way we used to all get along? And those sorts of things. And yeah, no, I think there needs to be a real penalty for that. But the Democrats have resumed being scared of the Republicans, who are like a rudderless ship right now. We'll talk about this more with Pelosi and Gaetz in a bit, but like, I, it's very frustrating to see a weak Republican Party that ought to be punished for its malfeasance for the last 4 years, but in the last 6 months, get allowed an opportunity to essentially move on unsanctioned in a way where if the shoe was on the other foot, you know that the Republicans would not do this. They would be, I mean, look at what they went after Bill Clinton for, not what they should have went after him for, which is like a workplace harassment thing. We've talked about that on the show countless times. But instead, what they went after him for, which was like lying to Congress and like, you know, like this really sort of like nebulous shit. And they did it with this like deep zeal. And that was the 90s Republicans. Matt Gaetz is on the ropes now, as we will talk about in just a moment. But I mean, imagine what Matt Gaetz and Devin Nunes and Lindsey Graham and these other Republicans would be furiously going after another Democratic president for. Like if Biden gets something to come up, or if they can make something stick on Hunter Biden. If they can somehow get a congressional investigation going on Hunter Biden, should they get back the House, you know they will go after Hunter Biden unrelentingly going into that election cycle. It will be like a main singular focus for them. So yeah, no, I think the pressure needs to continue to be put on the Republicans. I think it's fine to be frustrated with Joe Biden's performance, and I certainly am. But it's also worth keeping in mind that this Republican Party is as dangerous as they were when Trump was around, in different ways now, because Trump's lowered the bar for what is acceptable behavior. And I don't know that you need to
Well,
look much harder than Andrew Cuomo and Matt Gaetz
so
to
how
see
about
that like
this?
things have not advanced a whole lot.
I think what could maybe help here, at least for you and I to get away from the surface here, but to also see where the framing has changed. We were recently talking about how Cheney is considered like almost the center. Okay. Put Cheney in a Senate 10 or 20 or 30
And,
years.
and Kinzinger, I literally heard a friend call him the new
So,
Amash.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
take Kinzinger in the House and Cheney in the Senate.
Also in the
Let's
House.
go. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go back 10 years and put them in the House then. Are they still in the center or where are they on the spectrum?
No, I mean, back 10 years ago, they
Right.
are in the middle of the Republican Party. They're in the center of the party. Back 10 years ago, there were a few moderates, not many. They were a dying breed because that's when
Yeah.
the Tea Party was really starting to show up.
But it was a
And that's
real
when they
thing.
that's when they started to do the rhino hunting, though. And that was like a real rhino hunt. And there was a bunch of them.
But
So
those were not people that just pivoted off of a Republican president they didn't like. Those were Republicans with a certain type of moderate values. Whereas Cheney is just anti people sticking with Trump. And what else do we know about her?
and specifically anti people going up to the Capitol and trying to destroy the Capitol and maybe
Right.
kill any member of Congress they can get their hands on.
Right.
Yeah, like
That's not an
that's
ideological
not a
position.
liberal thing. Yeah, it's not even
Yeah.
an ideological position. Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
But it's become one.
No, that's like literally it's why is Adam Kinzinger a centrist, or quote unquote the new Amash, according to my one friend. It's merely because he said the Capitol riots are bad and Donald Trump, the Republican president, ought to have been impeached for them.
Like that is like if you would have illustrated this to me 4 years ago and told me this is how far Trump's going to move the party.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have believed you. Like
He's been an accelerationist of sorts, however, in directions that I don't think people who usually advance accelerationist narratives
yeah.
would go, oh yeah, well, and then the next thing will be the right wing will become ravenous. It's like this will be good. We will all like this outcome.
Well, what's also presumptuous is that you can accelerate in only one position.
Yeah, it's the problem with looking at politics in a linear spectrum, right? Yeah, I know. If you look at politics as a slot card track, then accelerationism probably has a certain appeal. But if you think about politics as maybe more of an open road. All right, you want to move on to the coronavirus?
Yeah.
All right. The CDC has said the coronavirus variant first identified in the United Kingdom is now the dominant strain in the United States. The variant is known as B.1.1.7. It's 50% more contagious than the others. Excuse me. And it now accounts for 27% of the cases in the United States.
So 27% of the cases makes it the predominant? Is that what that's saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's now the dominant strain. Yeah, because there are several strains of the coronavirus, which is also not a great
Right.
sign at this
But
point
none
here.
of them are more than 27% of the total.
No. So
Okay.
that makes you think maybe there might be at least four. There'd have to be at least four, right? 27%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
the newer strain is more transmissible among young people, and outbreaks have been linked to youth sports and to day centers. I think I have additional numbers on that real quickly here. Yeah, let's get into that. CDC said that the U.S. is seeing an increase in COVID-19 cases linked to youth sports between January and March. Michigan saw 291 cases stemming from youth sports teams, while in Minnesota, at least 68 coronavirus cases were linked to participants in both school and club sport activities. Walensky said that the increase in Michigan and Minnesota were due to more transmissible variants. The highly infectious B.1.1.7 variant was identified in the UK and it's become the dominant COVID strain in the United States. This tracks with a big spike in COVID-19 numbers that are mirroring what was the big third spike. Well, in Michigan, they are actually already out peaking the previous spike. As of April 8th, they had 8,700 cases in Michigan. That is more than the peak of the October 2020 spike. This is, of course, in the backdrop of many different governors, mostly in Republican states, but in the case of Michigan, blue state here. So, like, this is not a red-blue issue. There are red and blue responses to this that are fucking stupid in their own ways. However, this is not purely a red-blue issue. I will put that
Mm-hmm.
out that way.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of Michigan here now, they have actually surpassed their prior peak. So like they seem to be on a shit spiral here, and it makes you really worry about Texas, obviously. And again, gets us back to my criticism of Joe Biden and his incessant need to reopen schools in the face of science telling him that was a very bad idea.
Okay, so is it I don't know how you could legislate this, but for instance, with something like CDC guidance, shouldn't there be a way, especially with a disease that can cross state lines pretty easily, uh, shouldn't there be a way to say, look, state by state, if you all cross one threshold, we're going to recommend no one go into your state. But if you cross another threshold and you don't lock the place down, we're going to have to lock like every state around you down, uh, and just to keep out of your state.
Yeah,
Like,
the CDC didn't
but
have teeth like that. I know.
but yeah, but I don't know how that would get enforced. And
this is a very bad situation because the politics of this have gotten dreadful. The science is saying very clearly we are in a wave that is about to begin and is already beginning in some places that is as bad as the previous wave and has the potential, very clearly given some of the underlying fundamentals, to be worse than what was dubbed the holiday wave.
So here's what's dangerous is that on both sides, I don't think either side really wants to lean into anything quarantine.
Nope.
Because the Republicans on the Republican
It's my
side,
freedoms. So
yeah.
I'm gonna talk to my freedoms.
But on the Democrat side, you don't want to say that the Biden initiative is failing.
That the philosophy behind Biden's initiative is
Yeah,
fundamentally wrong. He's not right on this issue. Mr. Listen to the science. Not actually Biden's listening to the science of the coronavirus right now about as good as he's listening to the science on marijuana right now.
See, this is, for instance, the slickness that everyone wants to appreciate. Jen, is it Psaki?
Yes.
This is where when she's slick, it should aggravate you, but it doesn't. It's just move.
You
Let's
and I
just
have
keep
not talked
going.
on air yet about like how ridiculous it is that the media is just thrilled to death that Jen Psaki is lying her ass off to them. It is such a strange. I mean, it's a predictable dynamic,
Look,
but it's like
this,
so weird. Where it's like that a guy like Robert Gates. I
yeah,
think that was the guy, like Obama's press secretary. I think it was Robert Gates. And like all of Obama's like indiscreet looking dudes. They were at least somewhat scrutinized. Whereas Jen Psaki, by being a woman and having like a striking appearance about her and like, occupying that role, and it's
good
been a
tone, good
yeah,
tone,
and
good
being such a stark
flow.
contrast to Sarah Huckabee Sanders too.
Yes,
Like they are just like, oh my god, I have never been lied to in such a wonderful way before. Thank you so much, Jen Psaki. When like this administration is not very transparent about stuff and is not very forthright. Like they have changed their tune on a number of different things, and like
you should you
Psaki
should
should be getting
never,
scrutinized for this
yeah,
stuff.
you should never lean into when a press secretary has a cult of personality built around them. You should never,
They're a press
never lean into
secretary.
it.
They're a press secretary. Like
Like
it's
that is the one person like that you should always have distance from, and that you should always be like,
oh, that Joseph Goebbels makes films that make me feel so good. Like, duh, that's his job. What is wrong with you people? Like, uh, no, she's not Goebbels. I'm just saying, like that's a press secretary is there. They're a PR firm. It's like, man, based off of what the PR firm says, this company must make the best ice cream in the world.
it's like it's like cattle talking to a butcher and about baseball, and just warming each, and just the butcher warming them up, and just the cattle just being like, yeah, he's got some great points about baseball. Now, like, you don't understand the relationship.
You're not understanding this dynamic here. Yeah,
Like,
yeah. The lobster's hanging out next to the chef. He's boiling some water. He's just talking to him. Yeah. Oh man, I love the ocean. Don't you love the ocean? Yeah. Yeah, when we go back. Oh, how about some water? Uh, so
oh gosh, no, that could be a whole episode on just like she's very good at what she does. It's all about the media's reaction to her. Like, she is not doing anything wrong, really. If you can get away with that, you do it. You just you
in
just have
contrast, I wonder how long Walensky gets to stay at the CDC. I love her. I think she is great. Man, Fauci, get lost. That guy's Walensky. Walensky's where you can get the info from. And she says okay, so let me read this little blurb here. Michigan's average daily case count jumped about 7 times since February. 7 times. Walensky said that the state needs to shut things down, rebuffing a request from Whitmer for the federal government to send more vaccines. And she said, quote, if we try to vaccinate our way out of what's happening in Michigan, we would be disappointed that it took so long for the vaccine to work to actually have an impact. Because, I mean, think about it. Moderna takes at minimum 1 month. It's too late. It's too late. You're already back in this spike. You can't go like, well, let's just wait a month. I know that we're at a new high, but like, we'll see what happens. No, like, Walensky's absolutely right here. And she goes, the answer is not to give the vaccine. The answer is to go back to basics, to shut things down, to flatten the curve, to decrease contact with one another, and to test to the extent that we have available and contact trace. This is not what the Democrats want to hear right now. I'm glad Walensky has a job. Compared to in the Trump administration, Walensky would have been gone. Whoever got her in to this admin deserves a cookie or two for doing the American people a service here. But I do wonder how long Walensky can keep sounding the alarm. And the Biden administration continues to have this frame of like, more or less we've got things under control. Like, we've got a handle on coronavirus and things are going okay now.
Yeah, there's no check on them. There's no check. Um,
No, because the Republicans won't serve as one,
right,
right? Like, yeah, no,
right.
like they can neither applaud Joe Biden reopening. They're actually in a beautiful position where they want Biden to reopen the economy, but do they want him to reopen things because they love freedom? Because they want Joe Biden to sabotage himself? Both. Yeah, you choose your option. I'm thinking it's C. And what's great is they can go quietly, oh yeah, I love what Joe Biden's
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, it's great. And never say it publicly and criticize him that he's not doing things fast enough. Why doesn't that Joe Biden open up stadiums back to full capacity? B117, what name so? Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
meanwhile, you have Greg Abbott here banning government agencies, private businesses, and organizations that receive state funding from creating, quote, vaccine passports, saying that COVID vaccines are voluntary and no one should have to disclose private health information as a condition in engaging in normal activities. Ron DeSantis also issued an order last week banning businesses from requiring customers to show proof they have been vaccinated in order to get service. So much for the right to decline. I hope someone fucking challenges this up the Supreme Court here. Because do you remember a little case called Masterpiece Cake Theater or Masterpiece Cake?
Masterpiece cake.
The gay cake case?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
baker
yeah.
didn't want to bake
Yeah,
the
yeah.
cake for the gay
Yeah,
wedding.
yeah,
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 what was
yeah,
the
yeah.
whole fundamental based around? Religious freedom is what they argued on, but more fundamentally and more secularly, it was the business's fundamental right to decline service.
Right.
As a sign, like, the classic sign of we have the right to refuse service to anyone for any reason. Yeah, no, they should have the right to
Well,
refuse service.
and he's saying they don't have the right to
No,
refuse
no,
service.
no, no. They don't. The Republicans don't really believe in the right to refuse service. At the end of it, yeah. No, I mean, like, I always knew this with the masterpiece cake thing. I knew my take was just because I really do believe in a fundamental right to decline service. You don't have to perform work for people you don't want to perform work for. Like, I mean, think
That's the
about it.
difference between
Yeah, like,
communism. Yeah, yeah. There you
yeah,
go.
I guess that's why Chris is a bad would never make it in the communist movement. Yeah. Like, why did that shit not like land with me more? That's what I've always felt really strongly about. Like I don't want to make art for people who I think are horrible people, and like you can't make me. Yeah, but DeSantis and the Republicans, they don't really believe in that. That it's a paternal state, like. And DeSantis, boy, the Republicans are putting a lot of energy in building this DeSantis guy up, aren't they?
Mm.
Yeah, keep an eye on that one. A lot of energy is being put into this guy, and it will always be burned in my brain that guy ran on a video or on ads of him showing his kid pictures of Donald Trump and teaching him to build the wall and stuff, and teaching him the word MAGA as one of his baby's first words. Did you do that? Did you do that with your child, Brian?
We skipped that lesson.
You didn't teach young Heidi MAGA?
No. No.
Okay, next story here. I found this one interesting. I'd actually love for someone to, like, a listener to get me more info on this. Like, I'm legit fascinated on this one. Biden administration, not kicking ass when it comes to the immigration border crisis. Not necessarily treating immigrants more humanely. Yeah, it was a bad leave by the Trump administration. Yes, there's a lot of deliberate sabotage going on there. But, like, much like marijuana, Joe Biden just doesn't quite seem to have his heart in the 21st century. I would say his facts, but honestly, like, I still think he looks at immigrants in like that weird way we sort of looked at them in the 1980s or whatever. Like when you watch TV from the 70s and 80s. I mean, even like, I watched an X-Files episode from the 1990s, and the whole point of the episode, which is kind of poignant, that Chris Carter wrote, is that we treat Mexican immigrants like they are aliens, like from another planet.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, it was illegal aliens. It was like, but like
Mm-hmm.
they didn't ever say that, and they didn't make the pun. It wasn't cheesy like that. But like, no, I mean, I think Biden's still very much in that world. He doesn't fully see the humanity of these people who are at the border. They're using coronavirus as a bit of a cop out here. I mean, it is tricky. Let's keep it real. I will also say, like, look, if it were me, as much as I would maybe want to get over the border at a specific point, you gotta be really mindful when you're herding a place where there's like 1,000 people. And I just mean like whenever you bunch into, wherever you are. If you go to the state, if you went to WrestleMania this weekend, you're part of a herd of people. But when you bunch into a group like that, with these COVID cases being what they are, and oh, by the way, another story that we're hearing too, not on the slate, is that Mexico has been vastly underreporting their numbers. The real risk of getting the coronavirus is present in these border situations. So, like, I'm somewhat sympathetic to the Biden administration on this. However,
Well, I wonder what Canada feels about Michigan.
Well, the Michigan exodus is real. We'll be documenting that out on the next episode.
No, I just mean as far as sharing a border with someone who is not being honest with the problem.
Yeah, no. I got you. I got you.
I don't mean there's an exodus.
No, people can't stand Whitmer. They want out.
I would.
The Biden administration is spending at least $60 million a week. What? To care for unaccompanied migrant teenagers and children in shelters operated in the Department of Health and Human Services. The cost of the emergency shelter sites is more than 2.5 times higher than permanent shelters, quote, due to the need to develop the facilities quickly and hire significant staff over a short period of time. Like, this is a fucking mess, and obviously part of this is this is the part where I'm saying, like, this is the Trump admin's fault. Like, that front part, this mess is being handled poorly by Biden. But, like, let's definitely be clear-eyed that the Trump admin very deliberately made this mess. Here's the thing that is kind of freaky. HHS claims they are spending $775 a day per child.
Yeah.
Per child.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like... That just smacks because I know those kids aren't getting it. Hey, look, if those kids are getting $775 a day in like actual hard cash, and go like, I don't know, man. I'd feel morally different about it. They're very clearly not getting $775 a day in services. They'd be lucky if they're getting $15 to $20 a day in services.
What they're probably, if I were to speculate, not only are they getting some type of healthcare service through us, but they're getting some type of healthcare service through the privatized prison system, maybe, or they're getting some type of healthcare service through an incarceration service as well. Either way, there's people making money off of just in all sorts of sick ways.
This is like
in all sorts of gross ways.
Jacking up the president. Yeah, no, it's like the only way you can possibly explain this is a profit scheme.
No, this is whenever the movement. I guess one of Trump's bigger forms of support was the private prison system, and I don't know what their relationship is with this subject, but I know it's not zero. And it makes me nervous, just that sort of connection there. And like, at what point is this a healthcare service? And if this is a healthcare service, how do we provide this in a way that is financially feasible without offering universal healthcare. I don't know.
I,
I'm not
it
trying to
it
make that.
makes the mind real that like you could be spending $775 claiming with a straight face.
Yeah,
I mean, look at the videos of those facilities. They are in plastic pens. And you're going,
yeah,
yeah, I know what it looks like. It looks like we threw a throw rug on the ground with 1, 2, 3 and ABC on it, and that they're sleeping in little foil bags, and that we could cook them in it, and they'd be roasted nicely if you put some carrots and some potatoes in there and a little bit of broth. But that's actually worth $775 a day, a day. I mean, good Lord, it makes this is another one where it should be a scandal for a very wide range of people in the political realm. And for interesting cross stream reasons, it isn't. For the right, it's not, because, as you sort of alluded to, their relationship with the private prison industrial complex. It's not for the left and for the progressives in Congress, because the idea of cutting the budget per day for kids sounds bad at face value, unless you actually go real quickly here. I'm like not that great at math, so let's go 30 times 775. Are you telling me that per month these kids are getting $23,250 in services apiece per month? That's like more than a lot of Americans' average salary. Like when you really spell this out, that's per month. So times for a year, if you spent a year in this detention, are these kids, Brian, getting $279,000 apiece in services rendered in this facility?
no,
No, they're obviously not. Those are numbers, again, this is coming from the Washington Post here. They're obviously not getting it. So like I get why progressives would be like, well, I don't want to slash the money going to the kids, but like what's really going on here is a fucking grift. And that's why Biden and others are not making more of a move on this, is that there's money being made. There's gold in them there, kids. $279,000, $250,000. Every one of those, next time you see it on TV, every one of those kids in a cage, I want you to remember $250,000, $250,000. Oh, there's a group of four. They're worth $1 million. There's another group of four over there. They're worth $1 million. Like that's what this represents in real money to a lot of people in this immigrant detention industrial complex. Brian? Okay, looks like we had a little bit of a freeze up here. So I'm going to keep on rolling here. We are getting in now, ladies and gentlemen, into Gatesgate. I will set this up here. Brian, I think, will be right back with us in a moment. For those of you listening, it's just a little me monologuing here, me vamping a little bit, me getting the energy back up here. Yeah, the immigration crisis. It's very, very, very depressing. I didn't. This is not one I expected Biden to excel at, but this is not all Democrats are created equal. Is the best way to put it. And excuse me, I drink soda now on the show sometimes, so I get the gas, get the gas. All right, let's talk about Gatesgate, the scandal that is not fun to talk about. So, Matt Gaetz, horrible guy. Matt Gaetz preemptively asked the White House, back when Trump was president, for a pardon for himself and unidentified congressional allies for any crimes they may have committed. This came in the final weeks of Trump's term, when Gaetz is already under investigation over whether he had violated sex trafficking laws. Meanwhile, Trump said that Gaetz had never asked him for a pardon. So Trump has already gotten to the disavowed, I never knew him, what name's so part of the story here, kind of like what happened with Michael Cohen. Matt Gaetz, of course, like Devin Nunes, was a major congressional ally for Donald Trump during the Trump presidency. Matt Gaetz, super close with Roger Stone, too. Like, Matt Gaetz was really a Roger Stone like protege, and Stone really liked this guy, wanted to build him up. So this story, in and of itself, I got to be honest. Yes, it, given the other context, looks bad. But Matt Gaetz is a dumb enough guy that if he wasn't in this situation that's going on here, he probably would have asked for a blanket pardon anyways, specifically because he would have thought it'd be a cool thing to have to be able to tell people that he got a blanket pardon from Donald Trump because he was such good buddies with Donald Trump. Like, this is, again, a guy who likes hanging out with Roger Stone. He's like one of the 5 people, 10 people in America who like really dig and vibe hanging out with Roger Stone. And like, if you vibe with hanging out with Roger Stone, tells me a lot about like the type of person you are. So one of Matt Gaetz's associates now faces sex trafficking charges, and he's expected to plead guilty and cooperate with federal prosecutors. Investigators are looking into a Bahamas trip that Matt Gaetz took in 2018 or early 2019 and whether he violated sex trafficking or prostitution laws. So Gaetz goes to the Bahamas, might have violated sex trafficking or prostitution laws while there. Joel Greenberg's possible cooperation with the Justice Department could provide the investigators with key details. Specifically, investigators are trying to determine if the escorts were illegally trafficked across state or international lines for the purposes of sex with Gaetz. This is a story that started to percolate when Trump was still president. Barr wanted to shimmy sham away from it. He did not, unlike the Mueller report, did not just make this go away. He sort of was like, I don't know, man. Matt Gaetz, seems like you got a lot of things on your hands, Pally. So Joel Greenberg could provide these key details to the Justice Department. And Gaetz was introduced to women by Greenberg through websites that connect people who are willing to go on dates in exchange for gifts and allowances, which women feature as looking for sugar daddy relationships with women, with wealthy men. This is a high dollar escort service. Like this gets into a world of financial domination, but the sugar daddy, sugar baby sort of dynamic, for any of you who have no idea what this is, I'm not saying like I hope you all know what this is, but I assume many of you do. Oh, Brian, you're right in time. Do you want to explain to the class what sugar daddies are? No? You
What
don't
was
want to
that,
explain
man?
sugar daddies?
I will explain sugar.
Yeah, explain
What
sugar
it-
daddies. What are
What
sugar
the
daddies?
hell did I just miss?
You missed a little bit of the setup to
damn.
Gatesgate here, but you got to explain sugar daddies to the class.
Just what that is?
Yeah.
It is someone who relies upon a man with wealth to provide them with sugar, money, whatever they
It's
want.
on the escort spectrum, right? Yeah.
You're not taking her home to meet the family, probably.
I've never heard of bringing the sugar baby home to meet the parents.
It's usually not someone.
God.
It's usually not even a marriage of convenience. It's usually just a side relationship.
Right. And it's a wealthy man. They, want to have some fun, and that's how they do it. Greenberg, we're talking about Gaetz here. Greenberg's lawyer, Fritz Scheller, said that his client was uniquely situated to help prosecutors on the Matt Gaetz front of this and was seeking a deal with the least exposure possible. And Scheller added, quote, I'm sure Matt Gaetz is not feeling very comfortable today. It's hard to tell. Matt Gaetz never looks particularly comfortable. Matt Gaetz sent an accused sex trafficker, Joel Greenberg, $900 in May of 2018, who then, using the same app, sent 3 young women money totaling $900. In the memo field of one of the Venmo payments, Gaetz instructed Greenberg to, quote, hit up blank. using the nickname for one of the girls. The House Ethics Committee announced that it was opening an investigation into the allegations of sexual misconduct by Gaetz. The House probe comes amid a Department of Justice investigation into Gaetz's alleged relationship with a 17-year-old girl and whether she was paid to travel for sex, which could violate sex trafficking laws. Gaetz, meanwhile, hired 2 defense lawyers to represent him in the investigations. One of the lawyers has represented the Trump organization in a separate criminal probe. I found a fun tweet here too, from at Peach of a Baby, which was from June 17th of 2020, which said, "I just looked at Matt Gaetz's Venmo, and he apparently knows a lot of extremely young-looking women." Um, so look, there are other things here regarding the congressional probe. I don't want to necessarily get locked up on the legal side because I think kind of like what I was talking about with the Georgia law, where there's like a distraction play, where Gaetz wants you to think about, oh, maybe I did sex trafficking, maybe I didn't, and more like that. That's bad. Don't get me wrong, but there are other things that Gaetz has been doing while in Congress that have been equally as objectionable and inappropriate and clear workplace harassment, sexual harassment things. We talked about in the last episode, showing members of Congress pictures of him having sex with other women and pictures of naked women. That you don't show your coworkers pictures of you having sex or pictures of naked women. That's not okay. It's not even okay to have that out there as like especially if it's true. It's not even okay for other people in work to hear about that. Like that should not get out there. And that's bad. Another one though, the Gaetz office and a trash bin outside of the Gaetz office as lawmakers cleared out their offices at the end of a recent session. At the top of the heap was an empty Costco-sized box of, quote, bearskin Trojan condoms. So Matt likes to go with the thinnest possible condom so that he can get maximum sensation. It's not even about protection. It's about sensation for old Matty. Yeah, like, look, Matt has been that again. What should a colleague be seeing your condom box at work? No. Should that merit a House ethics investigation of itself? No. But coupled with these pictures and other things, yes, this is clearly a case of workplace harassment, of sexual harassment. It's a Me Too issue. And that's why the manager in this situation needs to step in. If it was at an office, like when I worked at an office, you'd have HR step in or the management step in and go, hey, Paulie, you are making Carol and a number of the other women in the office very uncomfortable. And Paulie, the work wasn't bad, but I think it's time for you to get going now, Paulie. That manager in this case, HR in this case, is not the ethics committee, although it's being offered. That's the Speaker of the House. She is the manager in this situation. Nancy Pelosi should have an opinion on this. Doubly so because the Democrats have made Me Too an issue that they like to politic on. And if you are going to talk the talk, you have to walk the walk. And this is also a very easy situation to walk the walk on. And functionally speaking, not only to punish people for the Capitol riots who really deserve it, but to get people who are like unliked members of Congress. I mean, one of the things that's so telling to me about this, as Matt Gaetz is in trouble, God, I've been really struck with the amount of stories of nobody fucking likes Matt Gaetz that have come out. You know what I'm talking about? Like, I've never seen, you and I have been, reading and chatting politics for a long time. I have never seen the amount of nobody likes Matt Gaetz stories. Like, not even Ted Cruz or Amy Klobuchar. I mean, those are pretty strong ones too. And like the Klobuchar by the numbers of like people quitting is a damning one. But nothing like what I'm seeing with Matt Gaetz. People hate this guy. And so I don't understand why Nancy Pelosi is holding fire on him when it's an easy win to fire up your base. The Republicans are not going to fight to save this guy. And probably want him gone. And, oh, by the way, he almost certainly did it. Like the odds of him having done it, nearly 100%.
Well,
The Venmo thing is so damning.
and it also is pretty damning of some sort of congressional culture whenever people are willing to remain silent about how terrible it is to be around him, just so long as they can remain in their position. I mean, I'm not. This isn't a victim blame, because these people are victims of his workplace harassment. But this is something where you're just made to look over it, because this is a certain figure, and that's a culture that, whenever it's obvious that Matt Gaetz is a sinking ship, and then people are willing to speak out about him. I mean, who is not a sinking ship right now that people are biting their lip on?
I mean, like, Paul Gosser has to be one of those guys, right? Like, I mean, no, I know he has to be. Paul Gosser has to be. But there are a number of those. I think it's a point well taken. Even when the dam finally breaks on Gaetz, I mean, the other thing is you can't say anything. You can't say anything to these Republicans who support, like, the 55% who think that the Capitol riot was started by the left wingers. You can't say anything to talk them off of this. Like, even a guy like Kinzinger or Liz Cheney. She's the last name of Cheney. Guy's a fucking war criminal. It's her dad. And like, Republicans are like, wow, she's a liberal. No, there's no moderating here.
Chris, if you were a Republican and you felt slings heading your way from the Democrats, Matt Gaetz related, would you throw anything back at them in a certain direction, maybe in a way that
Hunter Biden? It's gonna be
okay.
That's why you saw the Squirtle picture surface, right? I mean, like, that's the whole reason why they dug up the. Now, granted, Hunter Biden makes it easy because he's a fucking obnoxious dude. He's a horrible guy who tries to spin his horribleness like he's learned from it, but like, I don't really know that he did. I think he's just aged out of some of it.
Yeah, there was a CBS Sunday Morning, and I've been really curious about the
And he's
timing.
selling a memoir, and like, why would I want to read a memoir of a cokehead fail son?
But that is an interesting question. But I think the better question in there is, we all know that the timing of Hunter Biden's memoir and corresponding media presence is calculated. Why did they calculate bringing him out now? And I guess that's sort of a tangent from where we were talking.
Like that. It's so fascinating to me. And Biden too, I think, what Republicans should be taking advantage of and going after him for is, like, Biden should have told his son, shut the fuck up, don't write this book. Like, it hard to tell Hunter, shut up, stop writing. Like, go.
Where did they say write this book and put it out exactly now? Because we need. I don't understand.
I literally do not understand the wisdom. I don't understand the 3D chess argument for putting out this book, but I legit don't understand why no one put the kibosh on this.
I also don't believe that Biden couldn't have put the kibosh on.
No, he could tell Hunter to shut up. Absolutely. Yeah, no.
So then why didn't
Hunter's whole life is based off of his last name.
Right.
Hunter ain't done shit. It's all because of the Biden part of his existence. Yeah, no, it's bizarre. Let's finish off with this. We talk a lot about commissions, and I've long made the argument that commissions are a time suck. And so I was getting ready for this show here today, and I saw this headline. It seemed questionable given the other news of the day, which, some of which we didn't get to. I'll probably get to in the next recap here. Biden White House puts its police oversight commission on ice You're like, oh, uh-oh, here comes Biden waffling on yet another thing like a right winger. Um, well, it's a little more complicated than that. White House is putting the creation of the National Police Oversight Commission on hold, nixing a campaign pledge made by Joe Biden to establish one within his first 100 days. Quote, based on close, respectful consultation with partners in the civil rights community, the administration made the considered judgment that a police commission at this time would not be the most effective way to deliver on our top priority in this area, which is to sign the George Floyd Justice in Policing Now Act into law, said Susan Rice, who is the head of the Domestic Policy Council and was also a big time corporate lobbyist before taking this job. Coming to the decision, the White House said that it consulted with national civil rights organizations and police unions. Both entities made clear to the administration they thought a commission was not necessary and likely redundant. Civil rights advocates were especially concerned that, my emphasis, commissions would be used as an excuse by lawmakers in the Senate, both Republicans and skeptical Democrats, to stall action. It's interesting that people seem to be on this little dipsy doodle here
That
about
is such
commission.
a mad lib. First of all, like you can just fill in the blank. You can use this, but you can use 17 other things. God
Well,
damn.
so I mean, it was like, oh, where does the Supreme Court Commission stand these days? Biden, same week, this week, 3 days ago, signs an executive order on a Supreme Court Reform Commission. So there. Oh, one last part from the Politico article. There was a clear commission fatigue in all the meetings the White House held, and civil rights groups and police unions, said a source familiar with the administration's efforts. Um, I think people are starting to catch on that the commissions either one, come up with shitty ideas, or two, come up with shitty ideas that you can't implement.
Right.
Um, Either way, like these commissions are not good, and if you're
Or
an
they
actual advocate, they're not desirable.
or they are a commission which will come to a conclusion which goes against your politics, and therefore we really don't believe the commission has a valid place in this conversation
We
here.
appreciate what the commission tried to bring to the table. Yeah, and we will
No,
move now
there's
past this.
never been like uh, it's the commission where we don't know which way they'll go, and this might really hurt us. That's never the commission that is generated, but it's always the commission that should occur in a healthy process. But
Well, I mean, you say that, but like, Bowles Simpson might actually fit that definition. Minus the
mm,
part where they kind of knew where it was going to go. But it definitely
yeah,
hurt them. It was not like Bowles Simpson was not like a big win for Obama and Biden.
yeah, that's the sort of moral victory or the what is a legitimate moral victory that you just don't. It's just not there. Uh, mm.
Any final thoughts before we close down this episode?
The thing I shut down my computer for a few minutes over was having the nerve to search up a subject, and that subject was the border crisis and private prisons. And if you do a keyword search for border crisis private prisons, you're going to get where I was about to take us. And so you lost 5 minutes from me on my stupid computer shutting down over doing a search while on Zoom. So maybe you can get that back yourself, and just do a little search there and pretend I'm there with you. And that's all I got.
Yeah. As as for me, you can support the show. Bucket shows all I ask. I want to get back to doing 2 shows a week here. Like that is the goal. I am at the office or like doing this remote work stuff way too much. Like it's this is supposed to be like 25 hours a week, and they're like, we want you 40, and I was like, okay. And like that's just like I'm basically not making recreational art right now. Like I'm doing Don't Worry, obviously, but like yeah, it's not really fully recreational at this point, which mercifully, by the way, if a Bug Show keeps me able to make Don't Worry About the Government, because otherwise I'd be like, in the fucking work tunnel, nonstop. So but no, because like seriously, it's like I can go like, look, one, I have like listeners and people who pay for this show and they expect a product, and two, like it is the time that it takes me to do this show is about equivalent to what I make at the contracting job. Like if we do one of these type of shows, the research shows I'm just gonna like be taking hits on, and like that's fine. Because I have some things that I want to do research episodes on. They're just gonna cost me money is what it's gonna be. But y'all helping out here is huge and clutch, and I appreciate everyone who listens to this show very, very much. And yes, I will be getting back to it. Like I'll be getting back to the heavily edited with all the clips and all that sort of stuff woven in shows here. When things settle down a little bit, when I get this band stabilized too, it's all still very much in my crosshairs. I had a cool book or cool suggestion for book club. Those are also a bit of a loss leader episode, but I like doing those shows too. So we may do a book club. We'll definitely do a book club at some point this year. Probably do some AV stuff, like documentaries and that sort of thing. So if I will announce what documentary we're watching, if you want me to get you a link to those documentaries, I can try to find anyone who wants to check out the documentary and then listen to us talk about the documentary. I'll make sure that you can have like that full kind of experience. So just get at me at DWATG on Twitter or chrisnovembrino@gmail.com. You can email me. It's cool. Again, thank you all so much for supporting the show. One last note on monologue episodes. They are slightly divisive among the audience. I don't want to say it's not like a 50-50 split. It's like a 66-33 split. So like 2/3 of the audience really like the monologue episodes. Like y'all view it as like a really nice welcome adjunct. Some of y'all like hearing me have brain droppings and like go like, how does this guy just prattle for an hour and a half and weird mental associations happen and that sort of thing. Brian's less mystified by that. He's just watched it too many times at this point. But some of y'all really enjoy that. I know that some of y'all enjoyed the interview episodes. I mean, I get feedback where people like the fact that I'm very comfortable listening to someone and like I actually listen to them and I ask a meaningful follow-up question and like that sort of thing. Like, and I do a book review. I read the fucking book. So I know that like for some people, the monologue episode's not their cup of tea. There are going to be some of those sometimes. So, to those people, I apologize in advance. And it's like it's just going to happen from time to time. But of course, we're not abandoning any of the other formats. I don't want anyone to think like, oh, this is the start of like Chris turning into Dan Carlin Jr. or anything like that. It's just, sometimes like we have a news of the week thing, and I'm gonna run through it. Like, there's this dude I used to listen to, Buzz Burbank. He's really good. He's like an indie dude, but like that guy's got he's got like the voice. He's great. We'll have some of these like news and notes shows. We'll have stuff where Brian and I are chatting. We'll have like big panel shows. We'll do book reviews. I'll have guests on. We'll try to get Josh back from the Daily Show. Matt Lewis will be back, I'm sure, at some point. Bruce Carlson will pop up in the mix. There are a lot of different formats, so don't worry about the government. And I just wanted to mention that because like I don't know, like I got one piece of feedback, and I try not to let one piece get to me, but like they told me early on, it's like, well, you get one piece of email, it's like 10 people's thoughts. Most people keep quiet, but a lot of people have those same thoughts or whatever. And this piece of email may go like, well, look, I guess I'll put some words to what's up with the monologue shows. They're not going anywhere. I don't want anyone to feel like I'm hiding the ball on that. So they're going to still be around, but no one else is going anywhere either. It's just, the way that we're able to get content out to you right now, on a weekly basis is that sometimes I write the show, I tape the show, and that's the show, and I do it in like 6 hours versus some of these other formats, which sometimes I take 2 days. Like Matt Lewis, I was chatting with him one time and he was like, dude, your show, like you treat it like art. And he didn't mean it like, whoa, it's so great. He meant like, I like will sit there and work on something like obsessively for like 10, 12 hours. And like the economics of this are piss poor. Like it makes absolutely no sense for me to spend that much time like Radio Bernie, total loss leader. Why'd I do that? Because I was really into the project. Once I started getting all the clips and stuff, I want to make it good. But you know, part of what I do is keeping the lights on. So yeah, on some level, the monologue shows are that too. So I just wanted to speak to all that. Brian, do you have any thoughts on that, or did you enjoy that monologue? No.
I wasn't listening. What were you?
Whatever. Whatever. Enough of this. Enough of you. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.